JM Blakley, the legend, and it's always an honor and always an immense pleasure to be able to talk to you, man.
I'm glad
I
to
always come away from our conversations more enlightened than I was prior. I always come away from it thinking about thoughts I had prior, ideas I had prior, and challenging them.
Yeah, I'd hope so, Vince. I mean, if you spend time with me and I don't do that, I'll feel like I've failed in some way. Like I come on these to dispense some knowledge and maybe not maybe not as much dispense knowledge as to dispense ideas. To throw ideas out and then see if anybody wants to pick them up or not. Like I promise you this, and I promise everyone this. I don't waste my time anymore. I'm too old to waste time. But uh I'm not going to throw any ideas out there that I think are shit. Like I'm only going to give you ideas to think about that I think I used in a productive way and that you could use in a productive way. Otherwise, I'll keep it to myself, right? Like if I don't think like some people talk to talk and I could be accused of that. I could bear that criticism, but I hope that when I'm on something like this and I'm talking, that's exactly what happens is somebody starts thinking about it. And maybe they disagree, and maybe they agree, and maybe they totally agree or partially agree or totally disagree. But they thought it over and they spent some time rolling it around in their head. And everybody has to come to their own um not truth, but everybody has to come to their own beliefs. Now whether those beliefs are true or not is different, but everybody has to come to a belief about something, about training, about diet, about politics, about everything, about the world. And and the way we do that, if we're smart, if we're um if we want the best ideas, is we sort through them through thinking them over for ourselves and not just swallowing them. Like to take a belief that you don't test against the reality to see if it's true. Like truth should be something that comports with reality. Like if you have a belief and you think that belief is true and nobody has a belief they think isn't true, nobody holds one single belief that they think is untrue. Every belief you have, whether it's true or not, you think is true right this minute. And I guarantee you, some of the beliefs I have and some of the beliefs you have right now that we think are true do not and will not comport with reality should we put them to the test. And we would find out then, oh, you know what? I thought this was the right way to go to the event. I'm going the wrong way. It doesn't comport with reality. I thought this was the correct recipe for chocolate cake, but this cake sucks. Like this is not the right recipe. And now I know that. But when I was making the cake, I believed that this recipe was going to get me a chocolate cake that I wanted. I don't want this chocolate cake. This is a terrible chocolate cake. And so we find out about truth by taking these ideas and then seeing if they stack up with the way reality is. And we got to put them out there. And too many people we can't test everything though. Like so after having said that, I have some beliefs that I have not tested because I can't, right? I can't do everything. I can't test everything. So I have to take some beliefs on some other methods, right? And one way, if I can't actually go out and check it, if I can't use every single chocolate cake recipe and test it to see which one is the best chocolate cake or a sufficient chocolate cake for me, I'm gonna have to take some people's word for it. And that's where or before that, that's the third thing. The second thing is you should roll things around in your own head. You should take the ideas and see if they actually stack up to your own um, history, your own uh, experience, and what you understand about similar things. You don't have to know everything about the new car you bought to know a little bit about cars to make some decisions. You don't have to test everything, right? You know some things about cars. You know some things about chocolate cakes. You know about cooking. I know that. So, like, you have some related information that you can rub this up against in your head. And so that's where the value of somebody like me throwing an idea at you and then you rub it around and you rub it up against some of the ideas that you already have, some things that you know, your history, your experience, the related concepts, and then you can test it to make sure, but you can't test everything. So sometimes you have to take, that's the best you can do is to roll it around and see if it makes sense. And then maybe one day it will be time to stand on that belief or not. And you better hope you've thought about it enough. Because if you haven't, you might find out at that point where you have to stand on it that it's not solid and it'll drop you. And so then the third level of this would be to look at the experts in the field. Like, what do the people who spend their whole life studying this thing I want to know about, what do they say about it? And what are they saying to each other about it? What's the consensus among the experts? You can find an expert that will agree with this idea, which is totally different than that expert
Yeah, you
agreeing
can
with.
always find information that agrees with what you wanted.
Right. But there's going to be a consensus. Now, consensus does not comport with actual truth, but it is a damn good shortcut when we can't test everything for ourselves. That's the best way to find out truth. You see if it comports with reality. Next thing, you roll these ideas through your head, and you see if that fits in the common sense of um, what your history and your your own personal experience. That's very valuable. Like, that's super valuable. And then third, you look to these experts. You look to these people who who have made it their life's work to figure out stuff, and they're doing some testing, and they're talking to each other, and they have a consensus. And the consensus can be wrong, and it has been. Like, I remember the lipid hypothesis. I remember in science it can be even right, and I remember there's been good examples of where um, the consensus was wrong and it didn't turn out. But it's a good shortcut. And when you can't do all the work of either testing it for yourself or you don't have time to consider every idea out there, well, then that's a third best option is to listen to some experts and to get some good advice to see what they say. Because they have more invested in it than you. The people that study cars and car crashes, they have a lot more invested in engineering of cars than you do, right? And your mechanic who you take your car to, he probably knows a lot more about engines than you do. And I don't know how much you know about car engines, but I don't know anything about them. So so I have to really trust some of the experts sometimes.
I used
For
to be
me
big
to
into cars. When I was in high school, I did transportation class, and
well, you might
they had me bench press a transmission one time, and I learned so much in that class, but I also learned that it's just easier to take it to a shop because then you're not liable.
yeah, yeah. And the shop may do it wrong. Like,
Mhm.
there may be a period of years or centuries. There was a long time where people were convinced of the shape of the earth, or they're convinced of the whether the sun goes around the earth or the earth goes around the sun, and there may be a long time before the reality ever really makes it out. So truth is hard to come by, and nobody ever gets 100% truth. There's no such thing as that. Nobody has 100% confidence. What we do is our beliefs about nutrition or diet or exercise programs or religion or politics or anything that we're talking about, family life or anything. The the belief should become stronger the more evidence there is to support it. So it becomes truer that way. Like nobody gets 100% certainty, but the more evidence you can point to, the more numbers that you've written down, the more measurements you've taken, the more you've bothered to be diligent and what's the word I used to use? I'm having trouble with my words tonight. Um, Meticulous about record keeping, right? The more data you have, the more you can point to that says, yeah, this works better than that. And now I'm more convinced that this is a more true route to my goal. Doing it this way, not that way, because I have some evidence, right? And the more evidence you accrue, you start building up more confidence in your belief. And nobody's belief is 100% true. Nobody ever gets 100%. That doesn't happen. We don't have 100% certainty about anything. Nothing. Mathematical certainty gets close to it, I think that they say that some mathematical proofs are pretty close to that. But as far as ideas and concepts and beliefs, mathematics is not a belief. That's not a belief. That's different.
Yeah, it's concrete.
Beliefs about training and lifting weights and eating, like those are beliefs, right? And they become more true when the facts comport with reality. And the more facts and data you can add as proof and evidence to support that belief, the more confident you should be in that belief. And you should not be very confident in beliefs you have that don't have much evidence. Your belief should be um, commensurate with the evidence and the quality of the evidence, not just the amount. So, anyways, that's so. I hope that these ideas that I throw out, people roll them around and then hopefully test them, like see if they work, see if they comport with reality. Like, and I'm in that third category of somebody who I don't know if I'm an expert or not, but I know some things and I've had some success with that. I've got some evidence to support my beliefs, and then I'm throwing these ideas, and then I hope people roll them around, and then maybe even test them to see if they comport with reality or not.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm about. That's why I'm on these things is to do just that, is to stimulate some of your own thinking and hopefully really some of the double checking, going back and double checking some beliefs that you have that might not have a lot of evidence, right? They might not have a lot of evidence. They might just be everybody says, everybody knows. It's well known that.
Everybody does this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what's the
I just
evidence to
had a
support
conversation
this?
today that everybody eats tilapia for getting lean, and I just laughed. I just shook my head
Okay. Why would somebody do that?
because it's absent of carbohydrate. It's just a low quality It's just a low calorie dense protein source.
And why tilapia over, say, uh, albacore?
I couldn't answer that for you.
Yeah, so that's something to look into. So that's a good question.
That
Like,
was actually
okay,
my question. I was like, why not cod or tuna or shrimp?
yeah, yeah. And there may be some slight differences in fat content.
Yeah,
I think salmon has some fat in it, doesn't it?
salmon's amazing.
Does it have fat? I'm not a fish eater. I
Salmon, of
hate fish.
course. Yeah, salmon's great.
Yeah. Does it have fat content?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So that might be a reason that tilapia is um so when I do something, when I choose an exercise, I choose it for a reason. I work backwards from what I want. When I when I when I want to achieve something, I define the goal of what I want done. And so then I pick an exercise that's going to serve that goal more than other exercises. So, for example, if I want to be, I got a strongman kid and he wants to do this overhead press. He's really good at it. He's
Yeah.
young and he's got a chance to do some sort of record with the overhead press.
The
So he's
log
really
press, or
training.
is it log or axle?
I'm not sure if it's either one, but it might be. He's probably pretty good at both of them. You
I was
know,
really good at the log press.
they're similar. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've never done either of those,
they're fun.
um, because that wasn't what I did. Like that wasn't my goal, but it's his goal, right?
Mhm.
And so, if we were to look at the exercises that he could choose to strengthen the muscles that do that in the upper body, let's disqualify for right now the lower body ones because they're the same ones that he would do for a squat. And but if we were to choose an upper body exercise to supplement his overhead press, um, with the axle, let's say it is the axle. I think it might be actually. I think I've heard him say that. It's ringing in my ears now that he
What's
said
really
axle
nice about the
press.
axle, it's so wide that your
Mhm.
forearms don't get that. Sometimes when you grip and grip and grip, you get like the golfer's elbow or whatever, and you don't get
Tendonitis.
that. You don't get that with the axle because it's so wide.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had a 2-inch bar that I used a little bit. I made a pipe and I lifted with it for a minute when I was bodybuilding, just
Mhm.
to get some grip work while I was doing something else. But
Yeah.
I never really used an axle or anything big
Oh,
like
they're
that. So I
fun.
don't
They're
really know.
great to row with. They're a lot of fun to row with.
It's be hard to row with. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So if we were to look at exercises to benefit the axle press, the overhead axle press, what must be, absolute must be, out of all the pressing exercises, out of all the triceps exercises, out of all the shoulder exercises, what is the exercise,
A
the
press,
one and only answer
shoulder press,
that can be the one that is gonna increase the axle press overhead the most?
the axle press.
Overhead axle press.
Yeah.
That has a 100% relation back to, it transfers back to the actual event that I'm gonna do 100%. Now, what exercises would be better than that for overhead press? What would be a better exercise that would help my overhead press more than that?
There isn't one because that's the adventure training.
Yeah, there isn't one. There isn't one. So if I want to be a bench presser, a competitive bench presser, should I do a variety of grips on the bench or should I spend all my time benching with the competition grip that I'm going to use?
You practice
What's a
what you're
what
gonna do.
what's a better what's a better exercise than competition grip bench press to improve competition bench press?
Well, think about it like in any other sport, right? If I was gonna play for the World Cup, I would practice like I would play for the World Cup.
So there's no better exercise. So if I do an axle press with a narrower grip, that'll train my triceps more. But will that transfer back 100% to my
No,
axle press in competition? No.
no.
What percent? It's going to be a high percentage, maybe 96% back. But I'm giving up my training effort, my calories that I ate, the energy that I put in, the sweat that drops off my head, the time that I put in. I could have been doing axle press with the grip I'm going to use, but I decided for some reason I made a choice to do narrow grip axle press today. What would be the justification? I would like to have 96% instead of 100%. What could possibly justify using a narrow grip axle press as opposed to a competition axle press grip. There, there's nothing, there's nothing, right? It's less. It's
Yeah.
4% less.
The
It
farther you get
transfers
away from
back,
what you're going to do in competition, the less it actually relates.
right? And then if I change a bar and I do Olympic bar press, that transfers back to overhead military press quite a bit, maybe
Mhm.
92%, right? But it's not the right grip. It's not 100%. So it's an inferior exercise. And you can rank your exercises on how much they relate back to what you want. Now, let's say I'm in a training phase for axle press where I want to highlight triceps because I think I have a weakness at the very lockout of the press. So maybe now, since that the goal now is not the actual competition lift, but I want to uh, shore up a weakness that I think in my muscular. What exercise out of all the triceps exercises? Because now we're just going to do a triceps exercise. Would would give me the most tricep strength for the the application in the uh, the axle overhead press. Now I don't know the answer to that, but I can reason out that some pressing activity, as opposed to a press down or a skull crusher, is probably going to be more applicable, right? And so what you do is you take the goal and you clearly um, break it down into its parts.
Mhm.
This is the whole motion. I'm gonna have to clean this thing up. I'm gonna have to lap it. I'm gonna have to lap it. I'm gonna have to clean it. I'm gonna have to push it up, right? And you break down the need for the muscles, and then you choose the exercises. And you should choose in descending order of what you estimate you're gonna get from that exercise. That's gonna reflect back on what you want to do with that exercise.
I'm sorry if you hear my dogs. They're all three of them have decided to park it here because
Eh,
mom is gone. Mom went to the gym,
yeah.
so all three of them are here now, hanging out. So I'm sorry if they're
Mine are in
crying
the
a little bit
garage
because
because
they miss mom.
well, yeah, they have a right to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did they lay down on your feet?
Yes, 100%. The one, so there's one who's imprinted on me. That's Osiris. He's the youngest one. And when we got him, we got I my wife got him for me when we met. So when we met, he matches her dogs, and we were dating. And she was like, "Oh, we got to go save this dog." We drove 3 hours to go save him. He was 5 weeks old in a rusty cage. Some people were raising him, and when I picked him up, he was maybe 4 or 5 weeks old, and he has been next to me ever since.
Mm. He's your buddy.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
he's he's perfect. He really is.
So so there should be a list of all the exercises you know and what you expect them to do for you.
Yeah,
What do you expect to get out of this exercise as opposed to that one? And you should have a hierarchy
like a percentage of
of
application.
application or of what you want. Like
Yeah,
let's say you want a part of a muscle to be developed, and you think this exercise is uh, a better developer of that than another
I actually do
exercise.
this with my exercises and my
Right.
order and exercise order and sequence is
Yeah,
really actually very important to me is especially when like prioritizing what's in the start of a session, and people be like, why do you start with that in the
yeah,
session? I'm like, because it's weak, and so I want to put the most energy and the most focus on
okay,
that
yeah. So when do you get around to the exercises that are low on the list?
last.
Never. There's 100 triceps exercises. There's 100 calf. There's a don't do the ones. Don't ever do them again.
That's funny because there are exercises that I'm like, why would I ever do that? I don't understand. Like,
Yeah,
why do people do that one? It's like
you can. Yeah, you can. right? But if you've gone through this hierarchy of how you're gonna go to the gym, you're gonna spend calories that you've eaten because your muscle is gonna flex and it's gonna spend glycogen and calories. Your brain is gonna be spending glucose. It's gonna be burning carbohydrate to think and to put out
Oh,
energy.
I did want to let you know I did your protein lowering experiment for the last since the last time we spoke, and I've done way more carbohydrates, and I was incorrect about my maintenance, and my maintenance is actually much higher than 3150.
Yeah.
I've been losing weight very fast, but I have a diet that's predominantly like 65% carbohydrate now, and it's been like just I
Yeah.
was perfect on it until today. Today I took a little break, but yeah, it was coming
That
off like
that's
today I was
60.
like depleted, and I was like, oh, okay,
Yeah. They've done a lot of studies on energetics and athletes and the mental energy as well as the physical energy of training and recovering from training pushes that above half. That there's just not the nutrient need. You're not growing muscle that fast that you need a shitload of protein. You're not putting on pounds and pounds of muscle every month.
Well, it's funny
Why do you
because
think?
you'll talk to the WNBF Worlds was just it just happened, like the World Natural
Yeah.
Bodybuilding Federations. And you
Okay.
look at the top athletes and I'll talk to them and I'll ask them about their nutrition because I would rather ask them about their nutrition because they don't have the cheat code. They don't have like,
Yeah.
nitrogen sparing compounds that they're utilizing, right? And so I go, what's your protein? And like 9 out of 10 times it's much lower than you would have ever expected. And it's, maybe some of the athletes it was zero point 0.8 grams per pound. A couple athletes it
Yeah.
was a little higher, like 0.125, but it was only when they were in the last couple weeks of dieting. And
Yeah.
it was much lower, but they counted all the sources from rice and oats and peas and whatever. All those trace protein sources also attributed to that. And so they're like, yeah, you count everything that goes in your mouth, you count everything. And so their protein, actual like protein that they're consuming per day is much lower than you would have ever anticipated. And they maintain all of their muscle mass, all of it.
Yeah. You don't need a lot of protein unless you have some sort of, you can point to some metabolic need for it. You can eat it, but you don't need it.
I could see if you're
Like
dieting and you're super hungry, it is satiating.
it is.
Um, but I
That's
would
true.
much rather have a little more sweet potato.
Well, you're talking about personality there. You're not talking about body need. You're just talking about I feel this and and that's a discipline, emotion, and personality issue
Correct.
that is very, very important for each athlete. You got to find your own way through it. But the the high protein, there's just not a demand for that. You you would have to think through what would cause a demand for 300 grams of protein a day, 400 grams of protein a
I
day.
would think like
What
a
would
Tour de France. Like,
Well, something that would have an inordinate amount of tissue breakdown. You'd have to have a loss of nitrogen from the body. You'd have to be doing something that was extremely, extremely destructive. And if your workouts are extremely, extremely destructive, you're not training properly.
yeah,
But think of so even the
that was
most
such a big thing, JM.
even the most destructive workout is still not going to create a demand for that much protein. And then on the other side, you could say, well, I need the protein because I'm laying down shitloads of muscle every day. Like you're not. You're not. Where is it? Measure your arm. Where's
Yeah.
the meat? If you're
The
if you're
actual the
eating
actual
all this
equation, if you
protein,
were to put on 40 pounds of muscle in a year, you would only need an extra like 50 grams per day.
okay, all right. So
Like
so
something
yeah.
arbitrary.
So people have profited off of this, Vince. People have
Yes.
profited off of the high protein. um, protein powders and just the whole and protein's fucking expensive.
Yes.
Like it's a money thing. And then the need for fat is kind of almost for an athlete. If you're not an aerobic athlete and you're not a like a an athlete whose event takes more than a couple hours, your actual fat need is not that much,
Yeah,
and
and
so it's kind of
you do need
incidental.
some for bile production. You know, you do need
Well,
some to
you
keep
do, yeah,
your digestive system moving.
and you need some as an athlete. If you're an endurance athlete or you have like you play soccer or something like that. You have 3 hour practices and things like that. You that's all important, but the the thing is that what are we left with? What are we left with to eat? If we don't need that much protein and we just need incidental fat that we get with other things,
Carbohydrate.
that's what you're so it's going to be default. The greatest portion of your diet. Default, by default. It's not that you're trying to eat more carbs. It's just that that's all there is left to eat. And that's energy, right? And if you eat too much, you get to store them as fat. And that's also easy to measure. If you think I'm eating so much carbohydrate, I'm going to get fat, get some skin folds and measure and see if
De
you
novo
are.
lipogenesis is actually really hard to do.
Say that again. I didn't
De
hear that.
novo lipogenesis to make fat out of carbohydrate.
What do you mean it's hard?
So it's actually because your body becomes more energetic the more carbohydrates you take in. You become more fidgety, more active. When you intake more carbohydrate, you actually expend more energy. So it's actually much harder to overconsume carbohydrate for that reason.
What do you expend it doing? Like moving
Activity.
around more?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but well, I wouldn't count on that keeping fat off if you're sucking down too many calories.
No, obviously
It's
not.
calories
But
per day. It's
it's
the caloric need for day per day,
yeah,
and it's if you eat more calories in either protein or fat or carbohydrate, you can get fat eating protein.
yeah. I have.
You can get fat eating tilapia. If you eat 1,000 calories more tilapia every day than you need, you're gonna put on body fat.
Yeah, that's always so funny when people categorize food good or bad, and I'm like, it's just the amount of carbon atoms you put in your face.
Yeah. Well, it's you have to and so you should do well with about a 60% plus
Yeah.
of carbohydrate. I found it could even be it doesn't even have to be that low. Like it's remarkable how low I was able to move to protein and
Yeah,
do extremely well.
I found that to
Right.
be the case. My protein's half what it was before,
Okay.
and
Well,
my
keep
performance has
accurate,
improved.
meticulous.
Huh?
Yeah, keep accurate, meticulous records and see what happens. Use use everything can be an experiment until you have enough data to support the belief. Then you don't have to do any more experiments. Then you know your belief is true or is move is high enough towards truth that it is adequate. It is true enough that it works and you can make it work. And so the it's fun to experiment. It's fun to know. But if you don't keep records, it's hard to know what you know and what you don't know. It's hard to point to what you know for sure. And by for sure, I don't mean 100%. I mean some level of certainty. The more evidence you have that you can point to, the higher that level of certainty, of surety becomes. You become more and more and more sure of your belief.
Yeah.
I need 300 grams of carbohydrate or of protein a day. All right, point to the evidence that would support that. and it's it's not forthcoming because that's not a need that anybody really has that I know of. I don't know the athlete that would need 300 grams. Some of those big men, maybe. Perhaps some of those gigantic, colossal sized men.
Like those
They,
Russians, the big Russian
they,
guys.
the giant strongman guys that are over
Oh,
450 pounds. Like
yeah. I
they
met
might have a
Thor. I met
metabolism.
Thor, the guy,
Yeah,
7 foot tall.
yeah. They might be training hard enough and heavy enough to go through 300. I think that's reasonable for
Side
them. They
note
weigh
is
450, so
he is
that's
the
reasonable. But
he is the nicest individual you've ever spoken to.
mm,
That guy is the kindest. He was deadlifting 700 pounds, skinny. He was boxing at the time. And I was like, you're so lean right now. I bet you if you just increase the food, your strength would skyrocket. And he looked at me and smiled and he's like, that's actually the plan. And we started talking about insulin sensitivity. And the guy stops whatever he was doing to chit chat it up and to be just very present with every conversation he's having. And it was very refreshing. It was very cool because I watched him in Game of Thrones.
yeah, I know who he is, but I've never watched that show.
Oh, you should. You would love it.
I don't have a TV.
Oh,
Yeah, I could watch it though on my computer, my phone thing.
yeah,
I could do that. I can watch movies if I want to.
yeah,
I just got too much other stuff to do.
yeah. You're a
I
busy
watch
man.
movies sometimes though. I do. I watch them sometimes.
The new Predator
Um,
is amazing. Amazing.
I liked The Predator when it came out.
The new Predator
I
is
am
great.
I'm looking at some documentaries now about the
Yeah.
Nazis and
Oh,
uh, how they took the government over, and it's really really interesting. It's really really eye opening about how that actually went down. And there's a playbook, and um, it's been repeated. It's not just been done there; it's been done in other countries where dictators are and where they take over. And there's a plan, and there's steps, and they one of the things that they do is they create confusion. They purposefully screw things up so they can come in and fix them. So they make it so that people get so sick and tired of hearing one thing and then another, and then I've been lied to, and then these people are lying, and those people are lying, and the government's lying, that people just don't know what's true anymore. And then they're very vulnerable. And I see that going on in our country
I
now.
was actually just about to say. I was like, we see that
I
every day.
I don't think people lie now to get away with it. I
I think
think
they
they're
lie because they're
lying.
misinformed.
No, I think they're lying to create confusion. They know they can't get away with it. They're just creating confusion. They're creating mistrust. They're creating a baseline mistrust across the board. And then they're going to come in and someone's going to be like, I can straighten all this out. And but to do so, I'm going to have to take the reins of everything. And that's authoritarianism. There's a lady named Hannah Arendt, and she was at these Nuremberg trials, and she wrote this book about the banality of evil, how ordinary people can be convinced to do really bad things. Just regular, ordinary, good people like you and me, ordinary Germans in this case, can be convinced to do things that you would think they would never be able to, and you think you would never be able to. And there's been some real shocking studies in America. The Stanford study, prison study, um, there was another one where I forget the name of it right now offhand, but they had normal people volunteer to shock other people if they got an answer wrong, and they kept dialing up the shock till the people were screaming. Now it was all fake, But they got in trouble for doing this too, because the people that were given the shocks, they had some mental issues afterwards.
I've heard
And
of this.
yeah, but they were ordinary people, and you can see the videos of them. They have real videos of them. They made a movie about it too, but they have real videos of people who are just like shaking because they volunteered for the experiment and are getting paid, but all they're being asked to do is turn the dial up and press a buzzer that's supposed to shock them more every time they get an answer wrong, to try to teach them, not to get the answer wrong or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the only pressure they're put under is if they don't want to do it, and a lot of them didn't want to do it. The guy standing in the other side of the room with a clipboard and glasses and a lab coat said, "The experiment requires you to continue." That's all I said. The experiment requires you to continue. And then people would say, "Well, I'm not responsible. I'm not." And they would push the button and they would push the button. And a couple people walked out. Like 70% of the people, though, turned it all the way up to where the dial went higher, higher. The last marking on the dial was XXX.
Oh no.
And people turned it to that dial and they pressed the button. And then the actor in the other room who was supposedly getting shocked, making all the sounds,
Mhm.
he didn't respond. They thought they killed a guy. There
Could
was
you
all
imagine
kinds of
the
lawsuits.
guilt? Could you imagine the guilt?
I can't imagine it, right? Yeah, just because the experiment, just because somebody in authority told you that you could do it, and that you wouldn't, and they also told them you won't be held responsible. Go ahead and do it, and they did it. And these were Americans, just like you and me. And so there's a system by which people gain power in authoritarian systems. There's a system they follow. There's a method, I should say. There's a method that they follow. And one of the things is that to get good people to do bad things is a belief system. If you Good people generally do good things, and bad people generally do bad things. That's just true. To get good people to do bad things takes some kind of deep belief, like a religion or a country or an authority. It's hard to get good people to do bad things, but you can do it if you have a religion or if you have a patriotism or a national thing, or if you have some belief in an authority. That's how you do it. That's how you pull it off. You can always get bad people to do bad things, but to get good people to do bad things, you need to employ some sort of deep belief, and people will do it. And then like at these trials, these people were saying, I just followed orders. I just did what they told me to do. I'm not a bad guy. And they were regular guys too. A lot of them. Some of them were assholes, right? The guys at the top, the guys masterminding the stuff, right? They were pretty bad. But but most of the people, most of the German public was just a regular person. But they had a belief. They believed that the Aryan race was a superior genetic race, and it had a rightful place to lead the world. It should be. They had a belief. This was their belief. They believed they were better than other people. And you see it in religions. The Jewish people call themselves the chosen one, and different cults and religions all believe somehow they're better. And Americans have, if you've traveled overseas, and I know you have, I know you've been to Spain.
I'm always
Like you,
apprehensive, and I always come from like a place of like, hey, I'm open-minded, I'm sorry, but kind of like
yeah,
trying not to
yeah.
be arrogant as much as possible.
Well, American exceptionalism. We think we're above the and we have a belief in that most Americans have a belief that somehow, some way, for some reason, we are just better because we were born here and we
I
live
think
in
I
this
think
culture.
everyone's made of the same things. We're all made of the same
Well,
shit.
some people don't think that.
We're all
Some
flesh and blood at the end of the day.
Well, we had slavery in this country, and there is slavery today all over the world still.
Yeah.
That still goes on. So you have these beliefs that will get generally good people, like, honestly good people, except for they have this belief, and that belief is not supported by evidence. It's supported by hubris
Well,
and
listen,
us and
JM,
themism.
I'm gonna end it here tonight. I'm
Oh,
exhausted,
okay.
and
Okay.
but I really appreciate you coming on. It's always a huge pleasure
Okay.
talking to you. Let everybody know how they can get in touch with you if they want to get in touch with you. I know you still work with people
I do.
online. I know you still coach people. I know you still help a lot of
Yeah.
athletes.
Sure. I'll help anybody that puts their hand out. Like, I don't have much time on this planet left, and I want to help anybody that reaches out to me, and I do. I really do.
You do.
So I have an Instagram, and it's JM Blakley. They could reach me there.
And I'll link everything. I'll link everything in the podcast, and I'll send you the link to the
Okay.
podcast and everything else. And I
Thanks,
really
man.
appreciate your time, Jam, and thank you so much. You're
Okay.
always a breath of fresh air for me.
I'm not sure we talked too much about weightlifting tonight, but
That's okay. We don't have to. There's a lot more of this world than weightlifting.
well, there is, and the person that weightlifts is a whole person. So when you go into a gym, you bring all that you are into that gym, and hopefully you can use the gym to build something good about yourself that you can take out of the gym, and that goes everywhere with you. But your biases, your fears, your doubts, they all come into the gym with you. And your beliefs, they come into the gym with you. And and the gym is a great place to hammer out some of these tests to see if your beliefs actually hold up to reality or not. Because the bar won't lift. The bar won't come up if you don't produce enough force to lift it. And you could believe all you want, but if you don't produce the force, in reality, the bar stays on the ground, right? And the gym is a great place to test some of your beliefs about how to overcome your fears, how to overcome your doubts, how to deal with them. You could learn a lot in the gym. So the truth is, champions are built from the inside out. You're never going to build a champion from the outside in. I had a couple great athletes, and they did okay. They got to the world level, but I don't consider them real champions because they really never mastered themselves. They had some success, right? But it was all on the outside. And the first one that was not a master of themselves inside, and they broke a world record. They didn't really care. I watched them not care about it.
Maybe
Like, yeah,
there's a
they
beauty
did
in
it.
that.
Perhaps, not in this case, I don't think, though. There could be. There
Some of
could
the
be, but that's a
best athletes I've
passion.
ever seen just don't give a shit, and that's why they do so well.
Yeah. Yeah. So if I could see that, if the goal was to master yourself, then you don't care about the outside trappings, right? So that would be true. Someone who's there to master themselves wouldn't care if they set a record or not. They would care if they did their best or not. And that would be true. And so what you're saying is that can be beautiful. It can be beautiful if you're not attached to that. But in this case, they were just doing it because they could. And they were not mastering themselves. They just had this excess of athletic prowess that they were genetically gifted with.
Yeah, I've seen
And
that
for a
too.
moment and for a moment, they were playing around with this, and they did it, and they didn't get anything out of it. Like, they didn't get anything inside out of it, and even though they broke a record, they didn't get anything outside out of it because they didn't give a shit,
Yeah. Well,
and that was the saddest thing. Okay, man.
yeah, sorry, JM. Well, I appreciate you very much. Thank you.
Sure.
And we'll do this again just very, very soon.
I'll see you, Vince.
All right.
Good
See you
night.
later.